Hello, welcome to Focus on Fantasy Romance, episode number 55, a podcast where we discuss book genre, industry, and our geeky lives. I'm your host, Elle.
I'm ARD Clerk.
Paulina Woods.
And today we're talking about books that we binge and books we wish other authors would write and other random nonsense that comes up. And Isabel's house hunting, so she's not here. Electra is family obligating holiday stuff, so she's not here. And I think Isabel pointed out that this is the original podcast crew. So when we first did our first couple of podcasts, it was just us. And Isabel came along shortly after we started. So we are talking the last book we binge read. And Paulina, are you laughing into your pillow? Is that what you're doing? Okay, so honestly, the last book I binged read was one of the Ruby Dixon's dragon post-apocalypse books. I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head. So Isabel had picked one of these books for the review, one of the review episodes, and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna like this. Yeah, 3 weeks later. I don't know what it was about that series. I binge read the whole thing. I think Paulina has read almost all of Ruby Dixon's stuff. Of course, she's not here when I'm talking to her. Okay, Amy, what was the last book that you... No, you're... Make up your mind. Are you here or not?
Yes,
what was the last...
I had to stop by my Kindle to look up a name. So yeah, continue.
Well, okay. So have you read all of Ruby Dixon's stuff now that you have Kindle Unlimited?
Yes, I read all her barbarian books and her dragon book. I've read every single one of the books that she has out. And some
Are
of
the
them
barbarian books? Are
Sorry,
they just as good as the dragon post-apocalypse ones?
Better?
They're better.
Let's
tell
say
me
that
that.
it took me 7 days, and I read all her series. Which, yeah.
How many books does she have out?
I think it said 18. Oh, I think it was 18.
Holy crap.
I can't remember, but they were so good. You should read them. They're good.
Yeah, I'll have to add those to my list of things to read when I'm done with college.
I read them for you.
Oh, well, that doesn't help me, actually.
Cliff note. Hot guys. Horny hot guys.
Yeah, before Ruby Dixon, I think the last thing I binge read was Grace Draven's Radiance, which I know I've mentioned on the podcast before. That is a secondary world fantasy romance, so like what I write. And she has an excellent way with handling culture clash. That was awesome. And unfortunately, before that, the last thing that I binge read was Twilight. I liked Twilight. I know it gets a lot of flack, but I like Twilight because like I read it and I was like a teenager again. I mean, it was that effective. So Amy, what was the last thing that you binge read?
The last thing I binge read was Gina Showalter's Alien Huntress series. The newest book that just came out is Dark Swan. So after I read Dark Swan, and these books are not long, like they're like almost the perfect length because, I mean, how do I explain it? She doesn't take a lot of time getting to the point or the sex. Like, it's pretty fast. Yeah, the boinking happens rapidly in all the stories, but she's so good at it that like you don't pay it any attention that they just met and now they're going at it, in the kitchen on the counter. Like it doesn't even cross your mind. So after I read that, then I was like, oh man, I really missed this series. So I went back and read like 4 or 5 of the books that were on my Kindle that I have the whole series, but I just went back and read like my favorite 4 or 5 that I read. And I do the same thing too, like when a new League book by Sherilyn Kenyon comes out. So the last one that I read it and I was like, oh my God, this hero was so good. But then I'm like, wait a second. And I'm like, was he a better hero than Darling? So then I had to go back and read Born of Silence, which is one of my favorite books ever. So if I do that sometimes when the new book comes out, it like sparks me to run back and read my favorite ones, from the past in the series. So that was the last thing I think I binge read really hardcore. Probably.
So, Paulina, what are you currently binge reading?
Okay, so I hate MC books, motorcycle clubs. I've always hated them. And I was flipping through Facebook because I was bored.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need something to read. So I'm flipping, and I see this book. I mean, I love Beauty and the Beast, and it was it's a Spanish name, and the Beast. And I was like, okay. And it was like gay romance. I'm like, gay paranormal biker romance. I was like, well, I don't like the biker part. Oh my God. I read that book. I'm going to have to admit something. I read it all night. I started at 12 midnight. The sun was up when I finally went to sleep. And then I still had to go to work. So I only slept 3 hours and went to work. Amazing book, amazing author. She drags you in, holds you by the cojones, and you can't let go. So I read the second book, which was just as amazing, and I'm biting, going, will you motherfucker hurry up and write the third? And then while I'm waiting, I was like, well, let me see how the motorcycle books are going. So off I go to see if there's any that oh my God. So I found like 3 more authors, read some more books, and here I am, I don't know, 7 books in this week. And yeah, I just can't get enough. So right now I'm reading, it's an MC book. It's kind of weird. It's about a guy who stalks the guy he likes, and they end up like falling in love, but it's so raw. Like, the author like kind of not fences, but kind of toes a line of wrong. Because, like, there's murder. They commit murder. They sell drugs. They do drugs. But it's that line where you don't sit there and go, ugh, you druggie. So, I mean, yeah, so I guess right now I'm on an MC kick. So that'll last until I'm done with this series, which is like 4 more books. So by the end of tomorrow or Sunday, then I'll find something else. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm on my MC kick.
So, what do you ladies do if you read a book, or you started reading a book and it's not really what you wanted and it kind of turns you off? Do you have a palate cleanser? Is there a book that you keep coming back to? You're like, this book, whatever I was reading, I really didn't like, so I want to feel better, so I'm going to read this book. Do you have an example of that? Amy's nodding.
I do.
What book is it?
It is A Heart of Obsidian by Nalini Singh. It's part of the Psy Changelings series. And it is the ultimate hero. But he's not a hero. He's actually an anti-hero. I have never... so for the previous series, I had a really cold feeling about this character. I did not see any redemption for him, and I actually expected him to end up being the uber villain. And when I got to this book, I can't say I have never. There was one other time in my life where I've cried so hard for a character, because by the time his partial redemption had rolled around, I realized how much he deserved it. But every time I read that book, I'm like, I close the book and I sit there and I'm like, that's the kind of author I want to be. Like, that's the kind of feeling I want my readers to feel, is like, oh my God, I think I just read the best book in my entire life. And I don't know. Every time somebody asks me what's your favorite book, or, of course, A Swiftly Tilting Planet is my favorite book of all time, but that's YA, so that's different. Like, this is my favorite romance book of all time. And it just has, I don't know, the hero, he's so wrong so many times throughout the rest of the series, and he does some really, really, really gray area kind of stuff where you're like, but in the end, he's just, I don't know, like, she makes him believably imperfect. So yeah, every time I need a pick me up or oh my God, all the books in the world suck and nothing's ever going to make me happy again. And then I go back and read it and I'm like, oh, and I feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And then I can start all over again and my palate is cleansed. What about you, Paulina? Do you cleanse your palate?
I'm sorry. Are we on me yet?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm I'm a little different. If I find a book I don't like, I just go back to whatever book recently that I just fell in love with and couldn't put down. So I did find some really bad books in the last few weeks because, I'm like scouring for good ones. Like one was so bad, I swear, I was like, they were leaving out every other word. I think they just slapped it together and put it up there for $2.99. I was like, yeah, this sucks. So, what I ended up doing was right now, my go-to book is, I think that's Laurent and the Beast. It's by, K.A. Merkin. It's a group, it's two ladies who write. That's the one I keep going back to right now. And it's because I like ones with the perfect hero. And not perfect. He's volatile. He's ugly. He's got scars from burning. He cusses way too much. But underneath all that, he just wants someone to love him. And he just wants to be accepted. So throughout the whole book, like he goes to hold the guy's hand or goes to kiss him. And of course, because he's from the past, he kind of backs up like, whoa, are we supposed to do that? And instead of him thinking, oh, well, maybe he's just shy, he goes, well, I don't care. You don't like me anyway. I'm just a monster. So it's kind of like that vulnerability, but he beats the shit out of anybody that messes with him. Like the book opens up with him beating the shit out of somebody. You're like, oh my God, really? So I kind of like that in a hero. So, I mean, to me, if I need to cleanse my palate, I just go back to whatever book just made me really love the character. Whether it be contemporary, fantasy, doesn't matter. As long as it's a book where I was like, yes, let's read it again and again.
I'm the same as you, Paulina. I like an imperfect hero. I like a hero who has to work for it a little bit. You know what I mean? He has flaws and he's got his own darkness that he has to get past, but he has redeeming qualities at the same time, but he may not be a good guy, but he's good to
the Beast
his
is
girl
not a good guy.
or his guy. You know what I mean? He's good to his other half. So his significant other. So that to me too, I like that. It gives a little bit more depth to the character when they're not, they don't smile and their teeth dings and, they don't look like Ken, and Barbie, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe not that raw, like that. Sometimes that might turn me off a little bit if the character is like way down the road from kind of getting back. But
why do you want him to come back? I never want my heroes to come back. At the end of the book, Knight was still cussing and killing people. I'm good with that.
I'm fine with that, but I think that they have to have some measure of softness. Maybe for when, unless, and I have read a couple of books where the heroine is just as much of a badass as the hero, and then they're like, let's go off and kill people together. You know what I mean? So that's as much of a romance as let's go off and bake cookies.
Did they skip when they were like, let's go off and kill people? Let's join arms and
with their machetes and their bloody faces, and they're like.
It's funny right now. I'm on a gay streak, so I'm gobbling up every badass MM I could find.
The first ever male romance that I ever read was in the Black Dagger Brotherhood, and it was all the way at the end. And Quinn and Blay had been having this little flirtation throughout all the rest of the books, and you're like, "Come on, dudes, just get it on already." So, like, by the time she got to their book, and it was like, they thought that it was going to be something that was not accepted, but people were accepting of the fact that they loved each other. But by the time it happened, you're like, finally, validation. You've been flirting for 13 books. Time to get together.
It's good, but I think the MC world needs a little bit more acceptance just in their books. A lot of them
it's on the raw.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, in the books, I've only come across 2 series so far where when the person comes out as gay, they can stay in their club, whereas the other ones they usually either get beat out or something. And I'm just like, I kind of want to read a story where there's like a whole culture of that, you know? Well, they don't have to all be gay, but they can be bi. I'm over girls and guys fucking right now. So I think it's something so cool watching two guys fall in love or two girls fall in love. I see a guy and a girl fall in love all the time. So to me, I'm like, I want to see where the world is changing and things are coming more acceptable. Let's have a motorcycle club. I'm not saying they wear glitter and they prance around because that's just a little too over the top. But, you know, like badass, they still do what they do and kick ass and take names and yeah.
One of the best motorcycle club romances, but this is post-apocalyptic futuristic, but you might like it, Paulina, is by Kit Roca. You should look it up. I read, and it is dirty sex.
Is it gay though?
There is some gay, but there are some also male-female couples, but the whole series is kind of all these people that live in this area outside of the city after apocalypse.
Oh, okay.
It's like dystopian future, but like in the first book, the girl is like, she was raised in the city where everything's beautiful and perfect, and she escaped and went to this kind of rougher territory that's...
What's the name of the book?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But the author is Kit Roca.
I think I read it.
You might have, but I haven't read the two newest ones, I don't think, but I read all the other ones. And I did binge read that series, and that is not something I would normally read, but I picked it up because it was dystopian, post-apocalyptic, you know, and I'm like, oh, this is basically a biker romance in the future.
Well, it has 2 days, and then after that I'll jump on another bandwagon.
On to something else.
I got to keep my reading pool fresh.
Yep.
So you're not in any danger of writing an MC romance yourself?
No, honestly, I like reading them. I like ideas would pop in my head, and I'm just like, no, I'd rather read it and enjoy somebody else's imagination and kind of stick to what I like writing than try to force my hand in writing an MC. I'm good. But I sincerely wish that they would have a more open scope. Like, because I know it's a very niche right now, and so a lot of the books follow the trend of, you know, this is what readers want to read. But I'm finding that the ones who are stepping out of that boundaries are the ones that I'm just like, oh my God, I'm gobbling up their series. So I'm hoping more of them step outside the boundaries. Or I'm going to move over to space.
Have you contacted any of the authors yet?
Not for the MC, but I was on the Alien kick before this. And I contacted 4 of those authors as I was reading their books. And I swear to God, I wonder how those authors are just like, oh my God, she's at it again. Like, I would finish 2 books and just write and be like, oh my God, I love this. Okay, I'm gonna go back and read your other books. Oh my God. And like, it was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. So
I don't think they would. No, I don't think they would get sick of that.
Well, I hope not. But I was like literally a fangirl. I was like they're like, wait, how fast is she? They're probably wondering how fast is she reading these books. And unlike others, I remember my books. I remember what they're about. So when I'm sitting here, and I'm like, dude, what was that? Like, I'm reading, you know, book 17, and I'm like, fuck. Okay, I know that this was this. Oh, and I'll go back and I'll pull up book 2. I'm like, that's what it was. Okay, it was on page. I'm good at remembering that stuff for some reason. The only thing I really remember.
Yeah, see, I have a hard time remembering a lot of stuff unless it really, really, really got me. So, yeah, I'm like, I've picked up books and I'll start reading. I'm like, why is this familiar? And I'll get halfway through. I'm like, I think I've read this before. And like, I didn't remember the cover. I didn't remember the author, the name of the book. Yeah, so unless it really, really grabs me by the balls, I don't remember them. I have a really hard time remembering names.
Like I have a few that I don't remember. And there's one that I really want to read again, but I know I'll never find it again. So there's those.
Well, if you can describe the plot, you can probably email the Smart Bitches at Trashy Books folks. They've got a website. And they are really good at hunting down romance novels based on...
I read it when I was 14. So It was like My Iceman or something like that, and a guy who was frozen in ice and it thawed because of, global warming, and then he found love, and I was like, I loved it. It was either
I guarantee you they can find it. If you email them with details, they will be able to find it.
Then I'll just have another author to try to go and see what other books she wrote since I was 14.
So?
Have you seen my house?
So, what's a book to movie adaptation that y'all either like or don't like?
Oregon. I love it.
I'm going to go with The Host. So I liked Twilight. My best friend bought me the series for Christmas when it first came out, and I did like it, and I read it all. I read all the series. The Host to me is so much better. Like her writing and the characters and the story, like I loved it. So when the movie came out, I went to see it by myself. First time I'd ever gone to the movies by myself. Did not take my children. Did not take my husband. Went by myself, sat there, watched it. Wanted to stay in the theater and watch it again. And now that it's on Netflix, I don't know if I'm the only person that ever does this, but now that it's on Netflix, it's like I can't bring myself to watch it again. I don't know. I'm afraid I'm not going to have the same feelings about it that I had the first time I saw it. I don't know, but I really, really, really enjoyed that movie, and I really enjoyed the book. So to me, that was a really good book to movie adaptation.
So I only watched half the movie, and it's not because I didn't like it. It's because I was halfway through it, and my husband's like, oh, I wanted to watch that. So I turned it off thinking we would turn around and watch it again. Nope. So now I've got this half-watched movie. I'm like, what do I do with it now? Do I watch it? I really liked what I saw. I have not read the book.
It's so interesting, the characters in that story, because when two characters have to share a body, so it's not what they're physically doing, but it's their thoughts, and they're completely different and alien. So the way she describes Wanderer, who's the alien, compared, and how she comes to have like empathy for the humanity is very, very interesting. She did a fantastic job giving you that character dynamic that a lot of people claim was missing in Twilight, which I was fine with Twilight, but yeah, I really did enjoy it. It was good.
I don't really have any movie adaptation.
Have you ever seen The Road by chance?
No.
Well, don't. Unless you want to be uber depressed. Like, awful depressed.
Have you guys heard of Passion Flicks?
I have, yes.
So I'm kind of super excited about it, and the only reason I haven't signed up is because I just literally don't have time to watch all these movies. But Passion Flicks is a video streaming service where they stream nothing but romance movies. And they're making original content. So they're taking romance novels that have done very well, and they're turning them into movies. And I'm like, well, it's about damn time. So, yeah, I'm hoping that they can do some more fantasy or paranormal, because I think they're focusing on contemporary, which would make sense. The cost of making the movies would be cheaper because you wouldn't have to do special effects or whatnot, or shoot on location per se in Europe. But I suggested that they license I Am Dragon.
Yeah,
that would be a good one.
That was a very good movie. I enjoyed that movie a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I've basically recommended it to everybody who's like,
I was watching.
Would listen.
I was watching The Princess Bride, and my girls are like, Mom, why are you watching this again? And I'm like, because if it's on TV, you can't just scroll past it and not watch The Princess Bride. Like, you have to. And my daughter says, yes, you can. But I don't know. I have a thing. I like, you know, like sappy love stories.
So have you seen the movie Penelope?
I haven't.
Don't think I have. It sounds familiar though.
It's got Christina Ricci in it, and
is it about a girl with a pig face?
Yes, and it's very whimsical, touch of magic, but it's totally a romance. I mean, she comes into her own, like she goes through a journey of self-discovery and acceptance, but like at the end, she ends up with her main squeeze, and it's so cute. So like whenever my kids are fighting over what they want to watch, I put that movie in and watch it. They can't pick out what they want, so I will pick what I want, and then they complain.
One of my favorite movies, and I argue with my husband all the time that it's primarily a romance, despite what anyone will say, is Howl's Moving Castle, because it is a romance between Sophie and Howl. And my husband, he buys me Miyazaki movies for my birthday. So when we got Howl's Moving Castle, I'm like, oh, I love this movie. It's such a good romance. And he's like, this is anime. And I'm like, it's still romance, damn it.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. They have a happily ever after.
Right. And like, if you take the romance out, Sophie wouldn't have done all that stuff for him. He would have died.
Right. And he loved her even though she was, despite what she looked like on the outside, like he could see through the curse. So it's still a romance.
Yep, no, I totally agree. I like that one too.
I want to say my favorite movie.
What's your favorite movie?
Say your favorite movie.
World War Z.
I don't think that's a romance.
I hated that movie.
Honestly,
I'm not saying it. It's not my thing.
I have World War Z on my DVR, but if I'm scrolling through the TV and I see it, I stop. I watch it to a commercial, then I flip to my DVR, flip to the part I stopped at, and then watch the rest of it. That's sad. My brother's like, why do you watch that when you sit there and quote it? I'm like, I can't help it. But if we're talking my favorite romance movie, I'm sorry, I'm not that much of a chick.
That's fine.
My husband makes me watch horrible B horror movies and terrible B horror shows. And so
like sci-fi?
No, like
I love
I'm talking
sci-fi.
about bad Japanese horror. We have watched bad Icelandic horror. We have watched, if it has subtitles, we've seen it. If it is
8 subtitles.
dubbed,
I don't like subtitles either.
I hate first person, like Blair Witch. I hate that. So
You mean you don't like when your camera does this?
First person? Yes. Oh, look at this alien. Zoom, 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 zoom. It's like, are you sick yet? Because I know we cannot keep
Yeah, I remember seeing.
footage.
I saw Blair Witch when it came out in theaters. So I was working at a movie theater at the time, so I got in for free, like because they had the midnight screening the night before. Yeah, it freaked me the hell out. But yeah, like now if I would watch it, I'm like, can I have some Dramamine? I'm feeling sick.
Like when they're running and the camera's bouncing.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yep.
When Jake and I first were dating, the first movie we ever saw together was Donnie Darko. So we own that movie now, and we absolutely adore it. And the other day he was like, Amy, oh my God. He was like, I just blew my own mind. And he told me he's like, I think this is what happened in this movie. And he told me, and we've literally seen it like 900 times. And I looked at him and I'm like, holy fuck. Like, my mind was blown too, because like I was like, that is seriously like the smartest dumb thing ever. Like, a movie we've seen 900 times and we never interpreted it that way until he brought it up to me. I think this is what happened. And I'm like, how did we never see that before? Even though we've watched it over and over.
Well, speaking on that topic of significant others, what, like, because you said that movie is the first one or whatever. I was thinking the same thing. Well, what reminds me of my boyfriend? And I was like, oh my God. So I told you the story how we met. So our first date, I suggested it, which you probably shouldn't allow me to do. Because I said, let's meet at Borders. It was when Borders were still open. I was like, let's meet at Borders and we can figure out what to do from there. So I got there early, of course, to read. And I picked up a book by Shelley Lawrenson, first book ever I picked up by her. And it's called Beast Behaving Badly, which is a polar bear shifter and a lion. So I'm reading it, and all of a sudden I hear my name called. I look up. So I've never seen him out of uniform. He looks fucking hot. I'm talking about swagger, tie. Oh my God. And all I did, I looked back at the book, looked at him, and I'm just like, fuck. I think I found my polar bear. And so I bought that book that day. And it's funny because whenever he sees me reading it, he's getting horny for me, right? Like, shut the fuck up. But it's the one book that literally reminds me of him. Like, even the character. Moody, volatile, but still loving. And I'm just like, I love that book. The question was, do you guys have a book like that that reminds you so much of your husbands?
No.
I guess I'm just the weird one then.
No. No.
I'll tell you what reminds me of my husband. And it's not because he reminds me of the character, but it's because he has his own obsession with it. But anytime that somebody tells me H.P. Lovecraft or like the Call of Cthulhu or the Necronomicon, my mind immediately goes to my husband. Immediately. I'm like, oh, Jake would like that. You know, oh, Jake would like that. If I see something, like I see a cartoon of Cthulhu on Facebook, I'm immediately like, oh, Jake would like that. Because that's like his thing, you know, like that's his. So every time somebody mentions it or we're talking about Lovecraft or Lovecraftian stories or horror, then I'm like, oh, that reminds me of my husband.
Oh. No, I call my boyfriend Polar Bear. He's my polar bear.
You have a sweeter story.
Huh?
You have a sweeter story.
Yeah,
He's so
no.
Go ahead, Elle.
They're not all perfect. I met my husband on the internet through a dating site. We met up at a mall. And I was on the dating site looking for friends. You know.
You picked up a husband.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, well, our first date lasted 24 hours.
Aww.
I moved in a week later. We were engaged a month later and married a year later. So
Good
you just
Lord, you put that ball of chain on him fast. I'm just kidding.
He asked me. Anyway, our first date, we watched Vampire Hunter D.
That's a good movie, yo.
I can't remember. I think it was the first and second. I think we watched both of them.
You cannot miss Vampire Hunter D. That's a good movie. That's good.
No, it is a good movie. Like,
it's good taste.
Oh, so he messaged me because my profile picture was me playing Super Nintendo. Like, I was just sitting there with a controller in my hand playing Super Nintendo. I wasn't looking at the camera. I was just sitting, you know, crisscross applesauce on the floor playing a game. And he's like, that's why I sent you a message, because you were playing video games. And then he's like, I knew we were meant to be because you picked anime for our first date.
Oh, wow.
Like, whatever, I just being me.
Jake and I met because I messaged him and I said, hey, I need to write a story for my creative writing class and I need to use I need a name for a character and I like your last name. So can I use DeClerc because my character is going to be Count DeClerc. And he was like, hey, that's cool. So then we started chatting and we knew each other for a year. And then we each broke up with our significant others. And then we started dating each other. And a month later, I was pregnant with our daughter. And 10 years later, we got married.
I like how you pause right there. We were dating. Yeah, okay. That's what we call it nowadays.
That's what we call it. Children are in the room. We were dating. We dated, and then we had our daughter. Then we had our other daughter. Then we got married. So yeah, but what was the first movie we ever saw together? I don't know. That's a good question. We watch lots of movies.
Yeah, we watch lots of movies.
All I have to do with my boyfriend, if he doesn't want to watch a movie, just be like, The Rock's in it, and he like sits down and get a chubby. I swear to fucking God, I'm like, dude.
Throw
I'm like,
what in?
The Rock, like anything with The Rock in it, he's like, okay. Like I literally got him to watch Tooth Fairy, and he
there's a
loves.
movie called The Rock.
Oh no, not that one. The Rock, Dwayne, the guy he gets chubby for.
So y'all are gonna be watching Jumanji?
Always got a man crush.
Hell yeah, we're watching that. Jumanji.
Robin Williams is rolling over in his grave.
You know what? A new generation, and they even say that the game evolved. So in all essence, it evolved to another level. So I'm okay with it.
Well, I'll tell you, fuck critics, because I did not watch Tarzan because it got bad reviews. And then when I finally did watch it, it was so good. It was the best movie I've seen all year long. I'm like, your critics are all full of shit.
Elle, you haven't watched Tarzan?
Nope. I'm going to have to do it. And I've read Tarzan. Like, I've read some of the original.
This movie is actually really good.
Movie and show more of Tarzan and Jane getting together, because this movie takes place after Tarzan and Jane are already together, and he's already Lord Greystoke, and they go back to.
I like how his knuckles, like at one point when he went to put his knuckles down, and they just rolled right back down into like how he used to walk.
The kid said, "Look at his hands," and he was like, "Yeah, I walked on all fours my whole life, so it changes your bone structure." And he put his hand down on the ground, and it like rolled his knuckles, and I was like, "That's pretty cool."
Right.
And when he protected her from the gorilla, spoilers, Elle, but when he protected her from the gorilla and the gorilla was like beating on him, I was like, "Aw, he's getting his ass kicked for her."
It was a good movie. I liked it.
It was good. I really enjoyed it. And I was like, why is everyone saying this is bad? Because it was really good. And of course,
maybe it was a bunch of male critics who are saying, I don't understand why this romance is getting so much airtime, so I'm going to poo-poo it because I'm emotionally dead inside. I don't know.
Well, remember,
it's Tarzan.
Have you guys ever watched The Covenant?
I did, yes.
A lot of people don't like that one. It got bad reviews. I swear to God, I wish they would make another one. I love it so. Again, it's on my DVR, and I watch it just because I love it. And I wish they would make another one.
What is that about?
It's about four. It's about five families, but the one family became dark. But 4 families who come into their power. The boys come into their power on their 21st birthday. It's like another teen, almost a young adult, but it's good. It's based off of some book.
My husband and I, which actually did not think my husband would like it, but Beautiful Creatures, which is based on the book series, my husband actually even liked that movie. Because the main character, the movie didn't focus so much on the girl main character like a lot of teen movies do. It was like the guy was the main character.
Huh. So I haven't seen that one, actually.
Yeah, it was good. And then I enjoyed I Am Number 4. And I'm sorry that they didn't finish.
Why didn't they finish that?
I know. The book series is fabulous. Fabulous.
I don't want to read the book. It's like Harry Potter. I don't want to read the book. I want to see the movie. So fucking make the movie.
Right. I Am Number 4, The Power of 6. I'm like, why would you not make The Power of 6? You introduced 6 at the end of the movie.
Make something.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of Alex Pettyfer, so.
It's driving me nuts. Or Oregon. I understand people are like, oh, it was a horrible movie. I'm like, okay, but since I'm never going to... Well, I listen to the stories because my brother listens to it when he's going to sleep. But come on! Make the movies.
What is Oregon about? I've never even heard of it.
It's not... That's the name of the dragon, actually.
Aragon?
Thank you. I always say Oregon. Don't ask me why I say Oregon instead of Aragon. But, like... My brother listens to it constantly, and I'm just like, oh my God, I love it. My brother's like, well, read it. I'm like, fuck you, I want to see the movie.
Yeah, I found that sometimes, like, whichever way you're introduced to the series is the way that you prefer it. So if you read it first, you're always going to prefer the books. But if you saw the movie first, you're always going to prefer the movies, assuming that they make
Harry Potter
series.
Nope, Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, I've never read those books, but I've watched every single one of the movies. Because I don't like reading high fantasy. I like watching it, but I don't like reading it.
I've read both series and seen both sets of movies, and there are certain movies I like better than the book in the series, and certain books that I thought did it better than the movie in the series. So, I mean, for Harry Potter, like number 7, part 2, like Deathly Hallows Part 2, to me was like the best. But that book drug on a little bit for me in the beginning. So, I mean, and Tolkien's just, sometimes he's hard to stomach when you're reading, but.
Yeah, I tried to read The Hobbit. I think it was The Hobbit, and I got so bored because I understand that it was a new genre at the time, so you had to kind of over-explain things because you couldn't just assume that people knew what an elf was. But man alive, I got so bored.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like watching the movie, like they're traveling across the country, but in the book, that takes like 6 chapters. And I'm like, I'm good. I'd rather see it all in 30 seconds.
My husband
I'd like a music montage, please.
Watch a YouTube channel where they were reading the Silmarillion on this YouTube channel. And it's basically like you're listening to the Bible of Middle Earth. That's what the Silmarillion is. And we're just like, after a couple of minutes, we're both looking at each other like, whoa, I don't think we can listen to this all the way through.
So it was like Jacob begot so-and-so, who begot so-and-so, who begot so-and-so, and so-and-so.
It's all like fairy words. It's all Tolkien words. Volgar, lord of blah, 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 brother to blah, blah, blah. And you're like...
Yeah, the begots. I grew up in the church, so we always used to not tease our mom, but ask, because they preach about everything in the Bible. We're like, well, Mom, why don't they preach about? I think it's in Matthew. It's called literally the begots. It is 5 chapters of where they name every lineage of David, and you're just like, what? So it sounds like that, where it's just. And it gets down, and at the very end, when it says like who they really want to talk about, and I'm like, well, why don't you just say that in the beginning? It would have spared me. It would have spared me all the fucking like other stuff that went on there. That's what it sounds like. The whole thing. I'm like, ugh. What time is it?
It is
time for me to
past
ball sandwich.
I'm thinking I want some Thai food.
My Thai food has arrived.
I might go get some pad Thai. Ooh.
Well, this has been a fun chat about fans and fandoms and fans of fandoms.
And lots of other random stuff.
And as much as I love you guys, I still have 30% left to read on my book, so I can read the next in the series. And I really need to know what happens because they're torturing somebody right now.
Before we go, I want to show you guys something. I won these 2 books from an author friend on Facebook. So look how gorgeous this is. I don't know if you can see really well. This is called Spectrus, and this is called Veritas.
Are those hardcovers?
These are paperbacks, and they are gorgeous. And they are steampunk god books. So the main character's name is Hester, and she's a demigoddess who lives in Colorado in the 1800s. And so we have like steampunk mixed with mythology and lore. So Quinn Coleridge is the author, if you guys want to check that out. But those are next on my 2 TBRs, so I can review them. But I want them, and they're beautiful. They're lovely. They are.
Yep. So I think I'll wrap it up. If you are a listener and want to hear us talk about a specific subject, please email us. My email address for the podcast is fantasyromancepodcast@gmail.com. You can visit our site, which is focusonfantasyromance.wordpress.com. Thank you for joining us. If you like the podcast, please like, comment, and share. This has been episode number 55. Have a nice night.
Good night.
Peace.